welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Anonymous New Patreon. Thank you very much for joining. Also, Yuya Nemento. Hopefully I'm saying that better each time I say it. M. Iron 26. Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKinnon, Phoenix Rising 86, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fiber Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, Rob H, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Troy Shuker, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Nealands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Gilded and G+, so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Deep inside the rabbit hole with Professor Dave and the logical fallacy counter, right?
Right. It's called mind shock. One word.
I overheard that conversation while I was setting up. So, can you just go over that?
Hank, your turn.
Yeah, the guy that did the interview between Daves, his channel is Mind Shock. He covers a lot of interesting topics. They all use voice changers for some reason, too. I think there ought to be a show like April Fool's Day. Everybody on this show has a voice changer or something.
I am totally lost now. We went from counting up the logical fallacies that Professor Not a Professor Dave Explains YouTube channel used in the debate between our Dave, that's DITRH, or Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole YouTuber. And you said that I overheard it while I was setting up. What I overheard was the count, which was something like 150 to 50, or thereabouts in round numbers. But now you're launching into something that you've lost me completely with.
Oh, okay. So the guy that interviewed those two Daves, that he has like 3 or 4 people that are with him, like a little panel, but they all use voice changers for some reason, like high pitched, squealy voice changers.
Right.
Gotcha.
When Nathan wants to...
For some reason they do that. I don't know. And then, like, every once in a while, the voice changer will stop working and their normal voice will come in. And for some reason, I always see Brenda in my head.
I think what Nathan was interested in was during that video he broke down, because he's like apparently he knows his logical fallacies, this mind warped guy, or what was his name? Mind Shock?
Mind Shock, yeah.
In one word. He's like, he knows his logical fallacies. So he watched this debate between the two, Professor Dave and Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole Dave. And the counter for the logical fallacies went to like 200 and something for allegedly Dave. And it was only like maybe 20 for our Dave.
I think DRTRH only got like 11 fallacies.
Yeah, it was 11. Yeah, so that was pretty good.
It is extremely easy to use a fallacy too, you know?
Yeah, it's almost like in society we're like designed to use fallacies, or like we're programmed to use fallacies and stuff like that.
Well, we
Or
hear
we're
them all the
trained that
time,
way.
you know?
Yeah, but you see our side, like our Dave, he kind of was aware, you know, like don't beg the question, don't start with an assumption, you know, stuff like that. While Professor Dave, I guess he's still not familiar with this stuff. And you can't really get familiar with the stuff if you're on the globe side. You kind of need to, you know, beg the question and such. So,
Well, he doesn't have to worry about using fallacies and stuff because he's got the default worldview, you know. So
Yeah.
they're going to win with that. Well, I mean, I call it the default. It's the Western world default at the moment. So all he's got to do is confuse everything enough, and he wins, or get a draw, and he wins.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, we're all conditioned into this like false, worldview, false way of looking at things, and so people are looking at it from like a box, right? And that's why people have trouble when they come to us, to our side. They have to completely change how they think about it and how they look at things. Because when we first come to
AI
FE,
overlord,
we're like, well, how does the sun
hold on,
set?
just 1 second. It's causing load. AI overlord, you're causing load of feedback.
You need to go and push the tool.
AI overlord, can you even hear us? You're causing a shed load of feedback. Oh, he's gone.
Right, so I'll give you an example of like, if you have a certain worldview, you don't get how FE works. Like, how does the sun go down, right? That's one thing. Because if you're thinking about like the globe side and how you were trained, it goes behind the ball, right? The idea of perspective and how perspective works, like, wasn't even part of the equation, right? So it's stuff like that, right? You have to like completely realize they kind of put you in a box that it can only be possible this way. Meanwhile, there could be other possible ways, right?
Hello?
Hello?
Takes cops to come out looking like this. Hello? Mic check.
We hear you, Neil. Can you hear us, Neil?
I can hear you now.
Well, after that intermission, I was going to bring something up. I don't want to do it on the show.
Right, we're already recording.
Would everybody?
So we're already recording.
Huh? Oh, well, I didn't want to do it on the live show, but the definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, right?
I think it was insanity, but yeah,
They say,
I agree with that.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Isn't that Einstein?
That's what they say about.
Okay, well, just imagine you've boiled water your entire life and you're expecting it not to boil when you heat it. That's ether madness.
John, you're not letting this water thing go, are you?
What's water?
No, I'll when Nathan gets a retraction, I'll let that go.
John, I think if you want to continue this topic, you should take it to the Steemit platform.
Thinking he's got to be a little more fluid in his argument.
I can't water it down anymore, guys.
Well, you're making a lot of waves, that's for sure.
What's water?
Let's not go there.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
When it
Well,
rains,
there's
that stuff that hits you in on the head, or
Now we're going to go to
turn on
what's
your
water.
faucet. When you
There's
take
a
a
time
shower.
and there's a time and a season for everything, boys.
Hang on, we just got asked what's water. We're really desperate these days. We don't know what water is.
Yeah, what is it?
What do you
I
tell
tell
me?
you what, the person that tells me they don't know what water is, I'm not going to be taking too many suggestions from them. So you might want
Don't
to
get
rethink
them
that.
riled up again.
Who said that they didn't know what water was?
You said, "What is water?" Did you not?
Yeah, I asked a question. That didn't.
There you
I
go.
didn't make the
You said it.
statement that I didn't
You
know what
asked-
water was. You strawman
You
that.
asked what water was. You asked what water was. Do you not know what water
Yep.
is?
I ask you what water was. That does not mean that I do not know what water
And I-
is. So what's
And I
water?
told you how you experience water. Do you disagree with how I said you experience
You
water?
said it was. You said it was stuff that comes from the sky, the cloud.
I hate to say it, but this is sounding like an ether discussion.
No, it's not. Water and ether. Are you not hearing very well, or what?
No, it's just because nobody's really answering the question. What is water? It's a
Yeah,
life-giving
nobody
substance.
wants to say H2O, do they?
I'll say it.
Why?
It's H2O,
Why?
but it
You
just
don't need
depends on what
Okay.
you're trying. Hold on a second.
Why do you
Hold on a
need,
second.
why do you
I say
want,
it's
hold
just
on.
hold-
Why do I need
Okay,
to
go
say
ahead.
H2O to you? Why can't I just tell you how you experience it and move on to the next part? Like, I don't get it. Like, why even ask?
Well, I think it depends on the question. Like, what kind of question are you trying to answer when you say what is water? Because chemically, what is water? Well, it's hydrogen and oxygen. But if you want to say, well, what is water in the sense of a living system? It's necessary for life. We all need it. You know, if you're wanting to be clean, well, that's what you use water to clean yourself. But so it just depends on the nature of the question you want to answer. So you got to be specific.
Can you show me hydrogen and oxygen bond to form water?
Nobody said that to have to defend it. That's what they just spent 2 or 3 minutes qualifying.
What do you mean? He just did. He just said it was He just said it was hydrogen and oxygen. So yes, he did just say that, Nathan.
See, that's all he wanted to do.
Yeah, I know.
Like, he's just like a waste of time or something. Like, he wants water.
No, it's a
'cause he
waste
wants
of
to
time
argue
now
about
that
H2O.
since I
It's
asked if you could
ridiculous.
show me hydrogen and oxygen mixing, and you can't.
Okay.
You can't, can you?
Yeah,
You can't show
and-
me
but there's
hydrogen and
water
oxygen
and it
bonding
boils.
together
Hold
to
on.
form a water, can you?
Water boils when you heat it at 100 degrees Celsius.
You made the
at sea
claim
level.
H2O is water.
I did
Now
not.
you're wanting to
I did not.
hand wave that
I
point.
just said water boils
Somebody did on the panel.
at 100 degrees Celsius at sea level. And you're ready for an argument on that. I don't think you're going to win.
Well, I want to talk to the person who made the claim H2O is water. I need for
Talk
them
to me now. Talk to
show
me,
me.
Mathis.
I'm not done. You're interrupting. You're being rude. I need them to show me hydrogen and oxygen bonding together to form water. Whoever made that stupid fucking claim. Go ahead.
Okay, what do you mean by show? Define what you mean. What are you looking for when you say show?
I want to see it manifest, if you will.
So if I can show you
I want to see hydrogen and oxygen manifest into make a water.
Hold on a second. So if I find a video of hydrogen
Are you
and
the one that
oxygen
made the
burning,
claim?
can you just listen? So if
Are
I
you
show
the one that
you,
made the claim?
okay, I
Because I
guess
want to
you don't
talk
want
to
to
the
listen.
person.
Okay,
Matthias,
talk to yourself.
we
Go
heard
ahead.
you. We heard you the first time you say you made the claim. Then he started responding, and then he said it again. So we can't deal with you. You're not letting him respond.
Well, that's just it. He's going to talk some bullshit rather than show me.
Okay, that's why I'm trying to get into this. If I show you a flame that is a combination of hydrogen and oxygen, and the byproduct of that is water.
So you're going to beg the question that a
Matthias, you
flame
got
is
4 words
also
in. Last
these
chance. Last
certain-
chance. Then we remove you, like last time. You got about 5 words
Yeah,
in.
this is it. Yeah. What I'm saying is he's just
No,
gonna
what
beg
he
the
was
question.
saying was interrupted by
Yeah,
you.
he
Now
is.
you've decided you're going to take over this
And
conversation
he's
before it's
begging the
answered.
question.
Last chance.
Well, he's begging the question.
Last chance to let him respond.
He's
You've
begging
cornered
the
him into saying
question.
he's got to...
Alright.
If you're not going to let me talk, you're definitely going to get kicked out immediately. You've cornered him into having to define what it is he is, and you keep rumpusing him. Last chance. Go ahead, Paul.
That's not what I cornered him at. Not definitions. Come on there, White Knight. You can do better than that, Nathan. You know he's fucked. We all know he's fucked. because he cannot show
I don't
a
think it-
hydrogen molecule or an oxygen molecule, atom, whatever the fuck you want to call it. You cannot. Nobody can show that, and nobody can show them these two deals, concepts that are non-manifest bonding. Can that claim is also these non-manifest concepts that can't be seen, right? Which was begging the question.
Water is manifest
What?
when the rain hits you in the head. That's what John said.
Dude, you just said that a flame is a concept. Good grief, dude. Anyway, there's a reason why Matthias was restricted in the last server. I suggest the same continue.
I mean, and a hydrogen fuel cell, which cars can be made into have and work and function, one the byproduct of that is water.
Right.
So I don't know what else he wants. I mean, if he wants to show him an atom, I can't. But you can see oxygen and hydrogen, and people have that's chemistry. Everybody understands it. I don't know what the problem is.
Hey, to be fair, you do not need to show the construction of the object. You can show the destruction into the constituent parts. So if you can divide water through into two things, right, 2 units of volume, and you call it hydrogen, and the other thing is different, and you call it oxygen, and you've proven that it takes 2 parts hydrogen and 1 part oxygen to make water. That's its constituent parts. Now, I'm not saying that that is proven. I'm just saying that that would bear that burden of proof that that's what water's made of. I mean, this is ridiculous.
What was
I mean,
wrong
this
with
is
John's
something-
answer with the rain?
Well, here's the thing. That's why I said, 10th man, it just depends on the nature of the question you're trying to answer. What is water? Well, chemically, it's this. What is water? Well, it comes out of the sky. This depends on the nature of the question you're trying to answer. All
No,
those
the nature of the
answers.
question
Hold on a second.
was-
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. I say all the nature of those questions are true. I don't know what's wrong with this.
Well, the nature of the question was revealed in the previous statement when I said water boils at 100 degrees Celsius at sea level. So I wasn't talking about its chemical structure. I wasn't doing any of that. I was just making a statement of fact. And then he wants to know what's water. That seems like a silly interjection at that point, does it not?
No, I mean,
What if you went
the
to-
discussions I've had with Matthias, he just wants to get you and I got you. That's all he wants to do.
Right, but I'm not going to go there. It's not worth my time. It's non sequitur to the statement I made and has no validity that I can see. Unless someone can logically connect me putting the chemical structure of water together for him to prove that water exists as a reasonable supposition. Otherwise, I can just point at water, describe how he's experienced it before, and that should be good enough.
Yeah, I mean,
Claims about the constituent parts of reality on a fundamental level,
Wow.
right? And then they want to debunk those claims.
If you go to the
Who's
rest,
talking?
if you go to a restaurant and say, "I'd like a glass of water," and the waitress or waiter brings you a Diet Coke, you say, "No, I want a glass of water. I didn't order a Diet Coke." Well, it's got water in it.
I was actually going to think that I thought the same thing. It does have water, so technically she did bring in a glass of water. It's just got other stuff in it. So, but even in that statement, though, if you bring a glass of water from a tap, there's probably chlorine, fluoride, other trace elements in there, other minerals are in there.
Right.
So, is it purely
Right.
just water? No.
Yeah, Paul, but I think when they ask that question, they're trying to make you go into what it's made up of, H2O. And then they're going to say, well, you can't show me that. Just like we can't show you ether. Always goes back to the ether argument.
Well, I mean, here's the
That-
thing though. You can see hydrogen. I've actually seen. Here's the thing. I've actually seen. I brought this up in the Discord yesterday. I've actually seen oxygen
into that
particles.
statement.
No, but I've seen liquid oxygen.
Yeah.
Look up, Paul. I thought it was my end.
No, Paul, you were breaking up. We missed some of what you said. And same thing with AI Overlord.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay. I said
Yeah.
I've actually seen liquid oxygen. I've not seen a specific particle or atom of oxygen, but I've actually seen liquid oxygen. So oxygen does exist in its simple form.
Yeah, like the way these claims work for ether, it seems like it's ignore everything else you've ever experienced and just accept this thing that you can't. And then we'll explain it from there. Just accept it first. And that's getting old.
Well, this is why I think Whitsitt was mad that everybody has a different viewpoint of ether than he does. But then those people would be mad that Whitsitt has a different viewpoint of ether than they do. When you can't come to a definite understanding of what the word means and its limitations, because it can't be everything. If it's one thing, it can't be everything, right? So everybody wants to make it whatever they want. So when Whitsitt says, no, it's not physically manifested. No, I can't prove it. It can't be science. No, you can't tie it to magnetism. That's a reification fallacy. I don't see it that way. In fact, it's a belief. I think Whitsitt should be applauded for that. He's being very honest.
But he only said that because he was
Well,
here.
I know
That's
that.
the thing.
I know
He's
that,
not.
but he's on. Hang on, John. I know that, but he's on record. So if he says something else somewhere else, voila, contradiction. Then
All you have to do is watch the next
Well,
episode of Globebusters.
well, then let's get a recording and play them next to each other, like Jaron saying,
That's correct.
"There's no proof," but then I saw proof when Zach made a paper, like a flake of paper float. Well, that's contradiction right there.
A whole page
well,
full.
I'm
A whole page of loose
over
leaf.
the last couple of weeks, I've come to realize that if you start having to redefine words to make your point is lost, and you've lost the argument.
Yeah, but that's what they've been doing all along. They don't even admit what an angle is or what 90 degrees is now.
I mean, how twisted is that? Like, if you just walked up to somebody on the street, you didn't say nothing about flat Earth or anything else, and you just asked them, "Or you need two straight lines to make an angle?" Everyone just automatically agrees because that is the definition of an angle. It's two straight lines meeting. You know, like I don't know what to say anymore.
You said enough right there, man.
Hey, check this out,
Well,
brothers. So one of the original postulations of ether was a particulate field held together by electrostatic forces. So essentially atoms, right? A sea of atoms on a micro scale, even smaller than atoms. And that's what was perturbed to cause the waves. So I'm researching into that right now. More to be revealed.
Yeah, but like, that's the thing. We don't see waves, right? Unless we get diffraction. Like
Even then,
it's confusing the action of boiling with water and just calling boiling water now. It's, confusing the phenomenon for what you're looking at.
Why is Matthias such a pain in the ass?
Well, have you noticed that he comes in with a triggered voice he's like amped up. He's like, can't even have a conversation with the guy.
He's super combative, isn't he? He just wants to have a row immediately. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is a debate show, but he's mistaken the very fast-paced, very content-rich discussions that perhaps someone like Whitsitt might offer with the droning nonsense, calling out fallacies when you're not describing them, that he's doing. There are different ends of the scale. As much as we might over-labour the point and say, oh, this is dumb that Whitsitt said, how embarrassing. Yeah, but at least he can hold down a conversation for a few hours and have it be back and forth and information be passed between and the actual argument get disseminated to the audience. And Matthias is offering none of that to be able to justify just jumping in whenever he fancies and swearing at us.
Well, it seems
I find
like
that if he's
when they use descriptive words to describe things, as you said, you got to label something. And he's saying, well, how can you label it if you haven't seen it? And how do you know it's real? So he's going to that micro stage of how do you even name it that? And how do you know that's real? And instead of saying it that way, he's already got a conclusion in mind. See, I told you can prove it, and then he won't let you finish.
I'll say this
I just want to say this. The thing that trumps that is when it rains and you experience it, that destroys all that nonsense.
I was thinking about this along the same lines in a way. When you're talking about like vitamin C yesterday or whatever day it was, they probably didn't initially, when it comes to scurvy, they didn't know it was probably specifically vitamin C. They just noticed people that ate fruit seemed to not get scurvy. And someone decided, it's like, well, let's say there's another person have another diet that doesn't eat fruit, but he seems to be not getting scurvy or something. And so, like, what is the component that's in these food that's probably keeping this from happening? So it keeps going deeper in understanding, And I was thinking, Jaron, they define scurvy as lack of vitamin C, but they probably didn't define it that way back when it first came out. They just saw a disease happening on the body and said that guy's got scurvy, and it was some symptom that they were manifesting. But the definition changed once the understanding got deeper, And I think the same thing with like any other elemental particle. It's the same idea. They probably saw something occurring and they attributed a name to it, and as it got deeper understanding on it, it just became a specific thing, more specific thing. If that makes any sense,
Well,
am I making any sense on that?
If they had to call it something, if it was a lack of vitamin C, what do you call people who have a lack of vitamin C? So they decided it's scurvy. Jaron said, no, that's just a word. That doesn't mean anything. It was a lack of vitamin C. Right, Jaron? And a lack of vitamin C, they needed a word to describe what that would mean and what they would call that. And they said, well, a lack of vitamin C would cause scurvy. And you have a problem with that, Jaron?
Well, as far as the origins, I'm basing this off of the way history reads about how people used to be really superstitious. It's possible that they thought it was some kind of supernatural illness that, and when you stayed on the water too long, demons attacked you and you couldn't see it. And so it was like, oh, it's the scurvy ghost. Maybe that's how it started. It really doesn't matter. It just got labeled scurvy before they knew how to help it,
And I'll say this about Matthias since he got quiet.
I mean, that's kind of my point.
I was just going to say this quick. Like, when he's calm, you actually can talk to him and you can have really good conversations, as even Neil probably, I think, knows because he wants him on. But when he's a little bit, excited, maybe it's not best to. But this goes for everybody, even me. If I'm excited, maybe I wouldn't want to talk to me either, right? So
Yeah, and I just want to
I'll
say
just
this
put
to
that there.
AI Overlord. Like I was talking to Witsit, and you jumped in with the joke, and I acted poorly. I apologize.
No problem. The joke was necessary because everybody had been talking about who's smarter than who the whole time. And I had to set the record straight that it's clearly me. LOL, LOL, LOL.
Thank you.
So when I listen back to this stream, not that I'm going to change the subject intentionally at all, but I am. For 2 years, I've been chasing my own tail, and it's apparently going to be the day before I get this new computer. So this new computer apparently is on a crate, and but for the fact that we've got postal issues in this country, it would have been in with me today. Anyway, you could probably hear me cursing in the background as I was figuring out why I couldn't get the sound to do what I wanted it to do. Did you guys hear me muttering and cursing? Presumably you did. Anyway.
No.
Oh, well, either way. What I was going to say, I've forgotten where I was going with that. Oh, yeah, sound speeds. I got in touch with him and I was like, this is the distortion I'm getting in my stream, in your stream. In other words, it's the same sound, but as you're live streaming, here's where it does it. And he originally said, oh, it's just packet loss. It's losing some sort of data along the way, and that's what it is if it's not clipping. I was like, no, nothing's clipping. You know, in fact, quite the opposite. Everything's turned way down. Anyway, he went through it. He's obviously got bugged by it and gone through it and figured out that if you've got any extraneous sound cards, so to speak, running on your device, your computer, then turn them all off. So anything that you're not using in Device Manager under games, sound cards, and something else, turn them all off. So I've tried that. And then I did a little test run of it yesterday. I even published it because I thought, no, this seems to have worked. There was a couple of times that I think I did actually put a plosive into the mic, which is a little bit misleading. But other than that, it seemed to be perfect. So I'm just mentioning this more for anything else because it's the pre-show and I can. And when I listen back to it, I'll go, yes, that was the show after which I disabled all the non-used sound devices for my own reference. But anyway, hopefully the sound will have improved because I have bumped the volume up in the hope that he has actually figured out what's caused this, and me turning them all off will now mean that I don't get these weird pops and crackles that come in randomly, not necessarily when someone's talking loudly. But anyway, hopefully the volume's a bit louder and that'll make the experience a bit more coherent when you've got an advert in between that doesn't start blasting you out because I've turned everything down so much. That was it.
Love it when you make these live notes on a virtual page.
I don't understand.
Well, instead of taking the note, you record it so you can go back to it to reference it.
I missed that whole thing because somebody was talking to me. Great.
I can tell you again. Oh, that's no problem at all. I can add to it, in fact. I can expand on it. No, I won't.
Oh,
I mean,
God.
don't these people realize that the people I'm working for, that when I'm on Flat Earth Debate, not to bother me?
Yeah, Neil, your education comes first.
Well, my daughter
Exactly. You know something in chat yesterday when I was listening to the re-up, and you got this Page Love claiming that Nathan is not answering Witcher's questions and he's not understanding what they're saying, and you're asking them for proof of ether. She says drift. I mean, I can't even comprehend what's going on anymore.
Drift isn't an explanation of anything. Drift's just one word. You say drift. All right, what kind of drift? What? Drift in what? Drift where? When? How? Why? What do you mean drift? Drift doesn't mean anything. You
drift?
just say drift.
She's talking about Bob's gyro because he claimed it was the ether.
And how did he validate that?
He didn't.
Good morning, guys.
Hey, Chocolate.
Hey,
I told
Neil,
you
for
it's
your
coming to
benefit,
this.
phase is in regards to waves, right, being constructed in 3D reality. So when you have constructive or destructive or in a phase, out of phase, any of those terms are talking about peaks and valleys of physical waves.
Right.
I want to know
So
how
Nathan was
chocolate.
speaking to Daiso the other day on a rerun that I had listened to for the first time through the whole whole conversation. And he was asking them, is light a wave? And he said, no, it's not a wave. It's not a wave or a particle. And he said, things about light are just, they're destructive or constructive interference. Okay, so you just said it's not a wave, and then you went on to describe wave.
You're breaking up a little bit, but we got the general gist, 90% of it.
Can wave bye-bye to ether?
Correct. They do it in about a multitude
Just
of...
say oscillating.
Yes, they'll
Sorry.
exactly.
They
Neil,
won't?
they'll do it in a multitude of different ways: oscillating, vibrating, constructive and deconstructive, impedance, resistance, whatever they want to describe. It'll always have some bearing on it being a wave, but they just don't like saying the word wave because we can then go back to the construction of the concept, or not concept. What's the word? Convention.
I can prove the ether right
Right.
now. Chocolate.
Has accurately described.
I don't think that was intentional, 10th. I think he's just having audio issues. He can't hear you, so he doesn't know he's talking
No.
to you.
No, I know. I don't want to be rude to him. He was on some point that he couldn't finish.
Some point. Do you want to get on with your some point that you're waffling on about there, abstrused?
Well, I was going to say the
Oh, it's AI.
Now you're doing it. Now what's going on here? Chocolate.
Yes.
Did the ether bring you into the show? Because you kind of drifted in.
Was it an apparent drift or an actual drift?
I don't know, but you can say it anyway and prove something these days.
Thought you couldn't prove anything.
Well, that's a
Then
convenient.
the top of Nathan was, your numbers are dwindling. Bob has this amount. And even Bob came in chat yesterday, but I ran him off. So I just wanted to help out with your 18 people. Always about numbers with these. I'd rather have 18 serious people and freaking thousands of the retards they got rolling over there.
Why even talk about it, man? Why like just let them do what they're doing, bro.
Hey, he
Just
came in
point
our
it to
chat.
people
Let me
coming-
go there.
Okay,
Wait
let me
a
answer that. Hold on.
Even
He came in
better
our chat,
still.
chocolate.
Can I just answer that? So it depends what the context is. So if you're talking about a pissing competition, which is what you're basically talking about in terms of numbers, well, yeah, I pay a lot of attention with a YouTube hat on to my statistics. And in that respect, I mean, once that hat goes on, all differences between fellow YouTubers get set aside, because then we're all just in the, well, we're fighting against the algorithm, you're fighting against the algorithm. Even if I was an anti-flat earther, I can almost guarantee that I'd still feel hard done by, even if I had quadruple the amount of subscribers that I do now. I'd still find a reason to moan and feel like I wasn't being promoted in the correct way. We've all got the same battle with the same algorithm, with the same overlord, when you've got a YouTube hat on. So when you talk about that in terms of numbers, Jaren's far more successful than I am, as is Bob. I'll give them credit for it. If they've done something that I haven't to get in that position, more power to you. I wish I'd done what you'd done. But I take those numbers seriously. But then all discussion in regards to what we're debating about is set aside. Now, what's that I hear? You're saying that they're using that as a response to our argument points in regards to science proving things and me being a scammer? Oh, right. Yeah, I'm not really interested. That means I've got to take my YouTube hat off and put my Flat Earth Debate hat back on. Because my YouTube hat's no good to me when I'm arguing about science proving things. Who cares about my stats?
Yeah. As far as if you're going to have a point that you have to defend in debate, water boiling at 100 degrees Celsius at sea level is like an automatic win.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Excuse me. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by Refracted Curvature, 10th Man, Neil, Brian's Logic, Chocolate Sane, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in almost said it, in Gilded. So welcome one and all.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Hey.
Morning.
There was almost some discord really early on in this conversation. Almost.
We're going to let it
morning.
slide for the first month. If somebody accidentally called Gilded Discord, I'm just giving you a pass. We're not going to correct it. 1 month. Anyway, any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge? That's a horizon, formerly known as Earth curve.
Nobody claims the horizon's Earth curve.
But
Are
it's
you
in
talking about the differential between eye level and sea level and the angle that you draw between that?
in reality, that is where they have derived the notion of us having an Earth curve from. The differential measurement between your eye level and the flat plane we actually dwell atop. Would you like to expand upon that a little bit further, please? Refracted curvature. Paul.
Well, they kind of give it away in their diagrams when they call it sea level, don't they? Because the horizon would be at sea level, would it not? It's where the sky meets the sea.
It kind of makes sense.
Level.
It appears, but yeah.
Yeah, right. So it appears, you know, I can't even, it sounds so silly to even, so like between that flat plane, the sea level and your eye level, where you're not on the ground and lined up perfectly, there's always going to be a slight depression angle between your eye level and sea level. That's not Earth curve. That's two flat planes.
I'm half tempted, that's why there was a short pause, to almost forego the rest of the housekeeping questions to get into something that I was really excited about you saying, and it's the Feast of Nonsense on the Globe side. But it's nice that you've just said what you've just said to lead us in with it, because it's almost like a new Feast of Nonsense discussion topic. Hey, Adam, how you doing?
Afternoon, everyone. Hope you're okay. What's the new Feast of Nonsense?
When we got
you
here,
come at this,
so let me tell, because I know you just said it, but when we got here, as a flat earther, you were trained like a little dog to repeat certain phrases that you gobbled down at the Feast of Nonsense. Can anybody know, or can anybody name the parroted nonsense flat earth claim that I'm talking about in this regard?
We see too far.
No. Try again.
The
horizon
rises to eye level.
I think that was chocolate. Was that chocolate?
The horizon rises to eye level.
The horizon rises to eye level. Is that true, John?
No, it does not.
So why would we be
differential baseline?
Why would we be trained to say it? Well, the devil is in the detail. The differential between the flat plane we stand upon and the 90 degrees to vertical that you see if you take your eye line gives you the difference that they have derived the curve from. Right, now go, John.
Well, see, on and the piece of nonsense on the other side of the fence, they say things to make that question when you ask it, because they'll say the horizon is a geometric obstruction when you first get there. It's blocking things with its geometry, but that's like first level, and you can measure it. How could it not be real? You're measuring it, So, but it's like it's the other half of the argument. It's like when you first get here, depending on which side you stand on, you're trained with a different load of nonsense to say in rebuttal to the other.
But you know what it is, though? At that point, you're starting to actually pay attention to perspective, which is, in a way, why I understand why people say that, even though it's not true, per se. But I understand why people say it, because that's the point when you start paying attention to what's going on, as with perspective, because you don't really pay that much mind to that once you first get into this. If you're a globe head, you know what I mean?
Right.
Well, that's hold on. That's what you did, but these are parroted talking points. So you're not really. It's kind of knee-jerk reaction. It's more like your heart beating than it is you thinking about a question to ask.
So
sorry, you have something wrong there.
Go on, Brian.
I have to make a correction. I'm sorry. No, the horizon rising to eye level, that was not part of the Feast of Nonsense. Sorry, Feast of Nonsense. The original claim was the horizon always appears to rise to eye level. It was the ballers that changed it, took out the word appears, and started asking flat earthers. So the horizon rises to eye level, and flat earthers go, yeah. And then they were showing them
That's actually a good point.
No.
Yeah.
What was happening.
Just hear John out again in terms of him explaining why the word eye level incorporated with it rising and the word horizon is definitely Feast of Nonsense. Just go through it one more time, John. I'm not decrying what you've said, Brian, and I get what you say.
Right. Based on your height above sea level, the differential between your eye level and sea level, those two flat planes, that angle of depression can be measured.
The magic trick of saying the horizon rises to eye level is taking the plane that we see, and they're taking that differential from versus eye level, and calling it a geometric obstruction. So you've already got the line of your geometric obstruction, the line of sight to the horizon when they state it, rising to eye level. Well, the eye level is where you get the differential from. Do you see the distinction?
No, I understand all that. I even made a video about this. I think I was possibly the first person to call it out back in 2017, early 2017, because I was saying it before that. But because I remember the original statement. The original statement is a statement of fact that the horizon will always appear to rise to eye level, but it's not at your eye level, because your eye level is a horizontal, and it's making a parallel with another horizontal, which will be sea level.
Fair enough. I didn't know that. We normally joke about Brian figuring these things out a long time ago because it's like a neg because he's smart and he does figure these things out quickly. So when we joke about Brian having said it 2 weeks ago, this is one instance where we're not going to knock him. Like, no, kudos. Because, yeah, it's taken me a while to get this to this stage in that regard. So if you were there at 2017, then more power to you, because we were arguing about the Isle of Man and reifying the horizon on their behalf at that stage. So well done to you.
Yeah, and I'm not looking for kudos. It's not. Sorry, 1 second, John. I'm not looking for kudos right now. I just want to make the point that saying that the horizon rises to eye level was something that was added, that was given to us by the opposition. Because our statement originally was, and you can go back into Eric DeBay's videos from mid-2015, that the horizon always appears to rise to eye level. And that was the claim. They changed it.
Does it?
I will just say that the geometric horizon, prior to the Black Swan, was apparent by nature as well.
Yeah, but by definition it always was. But their horizon you're explaining is part of the geometric limitation to your view, and that's fed to you when you get here as a anti-flat earther.
Right, but the appearing to rise the eye level or does rise the eye level, either way, it's playing into their hand because that's the way it's meant to go.
Either way,
I don't remember them ever actually acknowledging the horizon to be apparent before the black swan, though. Like, did they use? I mean, I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But did they use did they even use the term apparent horizon before the black swan?
No,
right?
It was just horizon. Apparent's already in horizon. So when you say
I get that, but I'm saying they didn't start making that distinction, even though it's ridiculous, until after the black swan.
But the distinction is, you're correct, because although it's inferred that you can see it, because the word apparent includes seeing it, it appears to be there, aka apparent. But there's a distinction that's not being addressed before they started calling it apparent, and in so doing, they undo their original claim, because, as John's said from the start, they're claiming it's a physical geometric obstruction. So when you say apparent, what you mean appears but not actual? No, they're saying it's geometric.
Right. And by calling it apparent, they've stripped away the geometry, which is supposed to be there, which is not there, which is why all of a sudden now it's not there, because it's supposed to be at 1.22 miles away from at a 1 foot observer height, and that seems to be a problem.
But that was all pre-sextant education days. Now, post-sextant education days says that when you're lining up your horizon mirror on the sextant as a mariner at the sea horizon, how tall or how much are you as an observer above sea level? That's the dip correction, because you're going to get an obtuse angle, and you need to get a right angle. So the whole point is you make a correction for the height of eye above sea level so that your baseline is horizontal. So that's the dip. That's the Al-Biruni dip. He gets on the mountain. He has a depression angle to the horizon. And if he wants to know, that's an obtuse angle. They call that Earth curve. But he measured the mountain using sea level. And then he changes it when he gets up there and says, well, that baseline I got to get to the mountain, I'm going to throw that away and say it's curving away from me.
Right. But what it's doing in actuality isn't what's deriving the values for sphericity. The differential between the two planes actually does give you the maths. That's what John's trying to drive at.
Right. But at the end, you minus from 90. So there's no curve.
Right. No, there never was. But that's the trick, is to, use the, I think Adam called it one time, your sphere of vision, but you see in every direction, you're seeing at angles, really, and turn that into a shape. And all you do is have angles, It's like when they ask you where's your dome, it's because in their model they have a dome. It's the personal dome, but that's a flat Earth model too. And they don't ever address it. But the celestial sphere is two flat Earth dome models, just one flipped upside down and stuck to the bottom of the other.
Yeah, but that's the arc of your vision, the way your eye works.
Adam's just about to present it. Hold on one second, guys. So this is the good thing about being about 7 years into this argument, isn't it, Adam? Right, on you go.
This is just, I suppose, what you talk. This is me taking the
you get a bit closer to your mic. You're a bit quiet.
Yeah, sorry. It's in the corner. This is just a little bit of analysis from looking at those dip to the horizon angles and then comparing it to curvature. You can see they're not the same specifically, but what you were talking about in terms of the differential between those flat planes, that's exactly what the way I kind of imagine it, and the best way I can see that they have derived it in Bowditch's tables is the differential of the two flat planes. I don't think I've got it on here, but I showed you guys the picture. As you go higher, you can see further, and therefore your point of rendering of the horizon in the eye moves in terms of it's not a straight linear relationship. The relationship you develop is this curve we're seeing here. As you can see, this curve fits very well, close to 8 inches per mile squared as well. So that's the bait and switch that we're talking about, but it's just appreciating that as we go a foot higher, we see a little bit further, but the foot and the bit we see further are not 1 to 1. So as we go to 10 foot, it's not, I can see 10 foot further. And it's that change of relationship that creates this curve, shall we say. That makes sense?
Right, and it's back to a curve plotted out in the graph in terms of the differential view of your horizon of your vision versus the flat plane that you've raised up from. And you plot it out and it gives you a curve. But it's not actually going to give you a circle, because it's more like the squared function. Is the yellow one, or whatever colour it is, the brighter coloured one, the squared function?
No, they're all. Yeah. The which one is 8 inches?
You're gonna have to get closer to your mic again. I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I'm just looking. I think it's the yellow one that's the standard 8 inches. But
Right.
I'll look quickly.
But that doesn't develop into a sphere, does it?
No, and more fundamentally, we never mentioned surface. So to use this graph as a surface representative it's data taken from your eye as to where the horizon renders. There's no mention of the surface at all. You might get a curve, but it's a curve on that data, not on the surface, because you never mentioned or referenced the surface. Not one data point relates to the surface.
But you can take those data points, this is the differential between the planes, and turn them into the top line, which is 8 inches per mile squared, which is their claim of your view of the surface. So you've got this, what your eye does versus what the surface does. And what you're measuring is that differential, and what's being described after the fact is the curve of the surface that you haven't got.
Back to my point, when you do all the corrections, thank you, Adam, that was wonderful, you still have to minus from 90. And 90 is a perpendicular. And especially in navigation, it's a right angle. So the whole point is you got to have a horizontal baseline. So it doesn't matter what the graph says. At the end of it all, you minus from 90, your elevation angle. So the surface has to be flat.
Well,
Perfect.
now the graph has practical uses. Like if you don't know your height above sea level, but you're capable of getting a 90, you could back calculate your height above sea level. I mean, if that's what you really wanted to do from that differential.
Right.
But it's still the differential between two flat planes.
Exactly. You can rearrange the maths and then give you your height if you're trying to solve for height. But it's the same equation, just reordered. But that is still reordering an equation that is a differential between two flat planes, the surface level and your eye line. Now again, we'll say it one more time just to reiterate the point, because I'm sure this penny won't drop for a while with certain people. It didn't for me. It did for Brian. Kudos. But ultimately speaking, that's what we're describing when we say they've taken the differential between two flat planes. It's not that the horizon rises to eye level. The horizon may appear to rise, but you're extending your vision. That's going to alter what you see of the ground, as opposed to it being used in a curve mathematics to describe the ground as curving.
Hang on, Nathan. The differential between two flat planes, two horizontals, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the navigator with the sextant aiming at the horizon when he's 10, 15 feet above sea level. He's got an obtuse angle. He needs to correct that. It needs to be a 90 because he's got to subtract the elevation angle from 90 to get the complement, to get the zenith distance. And that would mean the GP of the star or luminary that's used in navigation tables, all the way to the GP of the observer, the two zeniths, that is a radius of the circle of equal altitude. That must be straight, flat, horizontal. So one is you're 10, 15 feet above the ocean and you're sighting the horizon at sea, and you must do height of eye correction, dip correction, so you get your 90 to subtract your elevation angle from. The other one is when they say, I don't need the sea horizon, I'll just pull out a bubble sextant and create a false horizon, an artificial horizon, and get my 90 that way. I said, well, you still need a 90, right? I mean, that's what they do from the airplanes. They don't use a sea horizon, they just use a fictitious one and get a 90. Well, you need the same one that's when you use the sea. So you're just verifying the surface of the sea is flat from GP to GP.
Right, but what I'm saying though is when you measure that angle when you're using the sextant and it's below your eye level 90 to the horizon, that is what they're graphing and turning into Earth curve.
Agreed.
Right. So you're not talking at cross purposes. I'm glad you summarised that so beautifully because I wouldn't have done so well. Yes, indeed.
It's a very clever mathematical trick, and I will give them. I don't even know if it's a trick. They may have tricked themselves.
Maybe
thinking they're too clever.
That's not divine motivation. It's not relevant. What we know is how it's done and what has been done. And I hope we go over this indefinitely. We keep highlighting how the trick's been done.
You can fool yourself if you reify the horizon into the leading edge of a ball to think that the figures you're given describe Earth curvature, as opposed to how the horizon renders based on height across a flat plane.
Well put. Beautifully put, actually, Adam. Well put.
I just want to say that when the aeronautical, I call them, navigators in planes, they are still using the horizon. It's just that because the horizon is so far away from them, it's easier to use a bubble sextant and just make a line that appears to line up with the horizon. With the horizon, because the horizon, see, what happens is the horizon stretches out. Let's just say the sea level that stretches out from underneath you the higher you go. So that's why it always appears to be rising to eye level. So for them, the horizon is at eye level, but it's easier to just use the bubble sextant in that scenario than to be trying to do some kind of height of eye correction when they're dealing with an altitude and not a definite. Like on a boat, you might know, I'm 35 foot above the water on this boat, and I'll be on this boat for 2 months, so I always know I'm 35 foot above the water. Whereas when they're flying with altitudes can change. Even within 10 minutes, they might have to change their altitude for different reasons by a small bit. So to get their angle correct, it's easier just use the bubble sextant. That way they don't have to do height of eye correction, but it was still looking straight at the horizon because the horizon is basically sea level, and the Earth has stretched out from underneath it at such a distance that to them it appears to be at eye level.
Agreed. I think where 10th's trying to drive at is that what are you correcting to and what are you correcting for? Well, you're correcting to a horizontal baseline if you do the correction. You're saying, well, you can negate that step, and I'd agree, but that still includes his further point, which is to say, why are you doing this? What's it for? Well, it's to acquire a circle of equal elevation with a radius that's straight and flat. So in either event, if you're going to start by saying I've got a tool that negates the need to correct to the surface level, so I can draw a circle around my GP of the star, well, if I just overcome that step by using this tool, I don't have to correct. But even if you do correct, what are you correcting to? Well, you're correcting to the surface level that's flat, so you've got a 90, is 10th man's point. I just don't want you to step in because I think you're recognising that people are not necessarily giving your point all its credence. But then that links back into dip correction being hijacked into the mathematics of the differential between two flat planes. So this does all interconnect quite nicely.
Yeah, I'm not going to defend or feel I need to defend anything here. I'll just explain what the celestial navigation books describe very clearly. There is, well, Adam, if you got it, put it up. To dip or not to dip, that is the correction. Well, with the bubble sextant or the artificial horizon in the form of a pan of mercury, if you're landlocked, there is no height of eye or dip correction required because you already established a horizontal. When using the actual sea horizon, you're 10, 15, 20 feet above it, you must establish horizontal. So the dip correction only applies to that time when you're using the actual sea horizon in order to go from an obtuse angle to a right angle, which the other two give you automatically, which is sufficient right there alone without any more to say you're living on the flat plane. It's over right there.
Yeah, I'm not trying to argue that. I'm just saying that it's at the moment you use the sextant, you've not got a perfect 90 because you're above sea level. So that's, you correct for that and you got your 90.
What? No, you don't. There's no dip correction if you're using a bubble sextant.
No, did I say bubble sextant? I meant sextant, not bubble sextant.
Oh, you said bubble sextant, or unless I misheard you.
Sorry. No, if I said bubble, I didn't mean bubble.
Mariner sextant, fine. You just misspoke. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you're going to correct down, so you've got 90. That's what you're doing. But you can only be correcting to 90 if it's flat. So it's flat. And there's nothing really more to say about it. How you'll be utilizing it, how you'll be measuring it, how you can only be measuring it, given that you're measuring an angle from it, it has to be and cannot be anything other than flat. That's flat.
Can I tie this back to the original point?
Yes, please. That would be great.
The Feast of Nonsense, after the point about the horizons, argued, then you point out, as a glober, you would point out that the angles you measure are greater than 180, implying that, there's a geometric obstruction in the way yet again, because you're not talking about the differential between two flat planes. You're asserting there's a tangent to the horizon. Sorry about that.
Right, but a tangent to a horizon isn't measuring an angle from the plane that you need to be measuring and utilizing. So when you're measuring an angle, you're measuring it from a baseline, as opposed to a sphere edge single point tangent. So while you might be able to rearrange the question that we ask in the housekeeping, which I might just ask now just to get it into the actual formatting. So any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline.
No.
Why do they respond with, we can draw a tangent to a presupposed spherical Earth whose measurements have been taken from flat Earth angle measurements? They're not adding that last bit. But to a tangent point assumes something that isn't going to give you a derivative baseline to take an angle measurement from. So it's non sequitur. Am I wrong?
Well, they're trying to make your eye level be the baseline with that, because once you get the angle to it, then you can pull angles.
Hold on. But as we just discussed 3 minutes ago, you're not going to be doing any dip corrections that could reference a line to a tangent point, because as I explained to Brian, it works both ways. Well, you're not going to be taking that step. What dip correction? If you've got a bubble sextant, there's no correction to make. So to say, well, I'm taking a tangent to a sphere, no, you're not. You're establishing a horizontal with your tool, and then you're measuring an angle. There's absolutely no requirement for any sphere or tangent in that whatsoever.
Right, but the trick is is to use your eye level as your baseline. Is what they're trying to do is make eye level your baseline from then on out. And
finally we
ignore
get
the
there.
ground.
So would it not be quite useful for us to be asserting that the horizon, which on their side is assumed to be a geometric limitation, rises to eye level?
It plays perfectly into that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I appreciate this is where I wanted to get to, because I've been hesitant to move on, because Brian's like, no, it's been altered. If you listen to DeBay's careful phrasing of it, well, DeBay's a smart guy. I'd expect him to understand this interpretation based on what a horizon is versus what it's claimed to be. And yeah, you know, he's obviously ahead of the game too, but the fact that DeBay's phrased it as the horizon appears to rise to eye level, as opposed to what we got parroted, well, I personally, I won't speak for everyone in this instance, what I got parroted to me at nausea was, you guys say, stereotyping fallacy, the horizon rises to eye level. That's what I got back at me. I mean, maybe I'm unique in this, I don't know. I'm sort of hesitant to say it now, because of you, Brian.
Yeah, but that's because the ballers changed it. That's what they did.
Yeah. Oh, maybe you joined the conversation late. We're talking. Maybe I should have made this really clear. I will now. This conversation started with the premise that we're going to talk about a slightly different feast of nonsense. I didn't clarify this enough. I should have done. So
I know the glow feast of nonsense.
Yeah, but that's what you've replied with now. You're like, well, yeah, but that's what the Globers feed to you. But yeah, well, that's what we're. Okay. Shout out to Elvis. My God, that's a difficult name. Cufurovic. Cufurovic. I'm sorry to have butchered your name, Elvis. But here you go for some more scamming. I'm getting called a scammer by Super Chat again. Okay, we'll get to Jaron. We'll use him as an educational tool shortly, Elvis. But he says, here you go, some for scamming. He means some money or Super Chat. And then a googly face. Love you, Nathan. You guys rock. Thank you very much indeed for the Super Chat. Elvis Cufurovic.
No, Kufurovic.
Kufurovic. Oh, thank God Arwin's here. Thank you, Arwin.
It's Eastern European, I think.
Very nice when you say it. When I say it, it sounds like a total mess.
You know this globe feast of nonsense? That's one of the things. If the presentation, if I have it ready for Friday, I mentioned to you, that's based on their feast of nonsense. Part of their feast of nonsense, because they were fed a load of rubbish as well.
I can't believe what I'm hearing. Yeah, that was what I was just trying to. Let's calm down, Nathan. Take a breath. Yes, Brian. Thank you.
I know. I was listening in. I knew what it was you were talking about. But the horizon rising to eye level is just a straw man of the original claim. But it's a straw man that was taken up by flat earthers.
But we accept that DeBay's language was still incorrect, though, yeah?
No, he's saying DeBay's language was correct. No, I just want to expand upon. Before we get to that, yes, Brian. Where your point takes hold is sort of 2018, 2019, where everybody in the flat Earth community has heard it so often that they start saying it themselves. And I think your point is that originally, no, it weren't said like that by flat Earthers. You know, even DeBay was saying it in the correct way and saying it appears to. Correct?
Yeah, but it was changed by the ballers very, very fast. This is my point. It was around 2015.
Not your point, it's my point. It's John's point. I know you did it in 2017, but this is overall, the inspiration for this point has come from John. And I've gone, Globe feast of nonsense. So, yeah, let's just get this. This isn't going to be John, you thinking of this 2 weeks ago. Sorry. It's definitely the inspiration from a couple of days ago from John.
I know, I don't disagree with that. I'm just pointing out that the claim. I'm just pointing out that the ballers strawmanned that claim that the horizon always appears to rise to eye level. They strawmanned that in 2015. They started strawmanning that immediately. In 2015, immediately.
If this would have been prior Black Swan, my response to the difference between the horizon appears to rise to eye level and the horizon does rise to eye level is if you're saying it appears to rise to eye level, horizon already has a parent in it. So the apparent position where the sky meets the ground appears to rise to eye level.
One of the things we had back in 16, and shout out to rest his soul, Stan Smith, he's passed away, but he was one of the guys that did this with 3D cameras, all sorts of stuff, and looking at this. And one of the first things he challenged from a flat Earth point of view was, no, that statement of DeBayes is incorrect as well. The horizon does not appear to rise to eye level.
Finally, what have we been talking about this whole time? The dip. That's what we've been talking about. So literally by measurement, it does not do that. We're talking about a correction for the dip. Al-Biruni's measuring the dip. So it's incredibly useful if there's an assertion, which does come in one form or another from the flat Earth side, that the horizon appears to or does rise to eye level when you can measure dip, right? What's their assertion for their R value? Al-Biruni's dip measurement to the horizon. Their Earth curve geometric horizon, I might add.
No, I go completely against what Adam just said. No,
what are you talking about? He's got the concluding point. Oh, don't disagree with that.
The horizon does appear to rise eye level. I will never, ever, ever in a billion lifetimes go back on that, and I can show it and prove it.
I can show it.
We're not debating about the legitimacy of the statement. We're talking about how
I have celestial navigation proven.
I think
no, celestial navigation proves exactly that it doesn't appear or, in fact, actually rise to eye level. That's the point of the dip correction. It's an admittance that it isn't rising, that the higher you go, the more you have to adjust. That's the point of celestial navigation, stating quite categorically with the adjustment that it is not rising to eye level. Every time you ascend in elevation, the adjustment is different.
Yeah, except for on an airplane where they get Polaris at 0, which is on the horizon.
No, that's different. You're
at
talking
the
about no.
It's not.
Wait.
No, it's not.
Being at 0.
0 is not above the horizon.
I realise that, but the point is that that's your elevation angle, including the horizon, to a star you can't see. Therefore, you're counting it as 0. Yeah, fine, but you're saying that both lines are running along next to each other, aka 0. But you've got two things still in that.
0 for the Mariner.
I'm nearly there. You've got two things in that description if you're going to describe that as an elevation angle, aren't you? Still two things in it, even if you describe it as 0. Both lines are on top of each other. So you've still got the horizon in that. Well, to have the horizon in it, to assert it as an elevation angle of 0 to Polaris when at the horizon, you've still got to have used a tool that has one or other of those two corrections in, one correction in one or other method, two methods. So you're either going to not do the correction, in which case, yeah, I know where you're going with this. You're talking about bringing it back as you rise, which doesn't happen with the stars. Fine, that debunks it as a geometric horizon, but doesn't alter the fact that if you're taking an angle measurement, you're still establishing a horizontal baseline, that's one line, and then saying, where's the, oh, it's just gone. It's at 0 in the air. So I understand your point's still valid, and nobody's disagreeing with you, but what you have done is kind of now diluted the overriding point, which is in Feast of Nonsense on the globe side context, which is that the assertion on, in either event, horizon rising to eye level is simply incorrect. And Adam got to the conclusion, and you kind of ruined that a bit. But we'll be discussing this a lot more in future, so it doesn't matter too much.
That's what Adam said. Adam said a horizon appearing to rise to eye level is incorrect. No, that is not incorrect.
Yeah, it is.
It's not.
Oh God, you're gonna die on this hill.
Can I add
how
something?
Come then from an...
No, you can't. Brian's going to get to die on this hill. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah. No, I won't die on this hill. Right. Not only do I have pilots and navigators on airplanes seeing Polaris at 0, which is on their horizon, right? But I've been in airplanes looking out, and I could see both sides of the both windows. I made a point of going down in the middle aisle and looking out both windows so I could see out the windows. And the horizon was even above my eye line at that point.
Okay, let's see if I can appease you. If I say, in a very non-scientific accurate way, i.e. what just is generally appearing to you, and you're putting context of apparent in that what generally appears to you, which is fine, the horizon looks like it's at your eye level. Okay, that's what you're generally driving at. However...
No, Brian's just shot himself in the foot.
I know he has. You go ahead, Adam. Go on.
It rises above the eye level, does it, as well?
It appears to sometimes, yeah.
I'll rest my
To
case.
actually appears that to actually be above your eye level.
I'll rest my case then.
Yeah, it appears.
Appears to rise above the eye level. So the horizon
it appears to rise
appear
to eye level.
always
Is the
rise
same.
to eye level.
I've seen it. And
and
when I was flying over Nevada,
We heard that, Brian.
Brian.
You're rumpusing him with a repetition and not letting the actual point he's concluding on get heard. So he's saying, if you're saying it's above eye level, that's self-defeating. Therefore, didn't appear to rise to eye level, appeared to rise above it. He's saying, I rest my case.
No, yeah. The point is, it's not a physical location.
No.
It appears, not actual.
Okay, we got that.
Point.
But in actual terms, in realistic terms, when you get down to the minutiae, when you get down to the debating points, when you get down to arguing about it with maths involved, people are going to want it in an accurate term. And we're going to talk about how we look and measure the horizon, regardless of whether we know it isn't assumptively physical or otherwise. And why would we have a difference between what you look at when you're measuring it with the mariner's sextant versus what you look at and is above that when you establish it with horizontal in the bubble? Well, why is there a difference? Because it isn't rising to eye level. Ergo, the statement is false and parroted by flat earthers and originating from Feast and Nonsense on the Globe side, which is where John interjected, or you in 2017, I forget which.
You're actually contradicting yourself. I don't know.
Well, wait.
Hold on, I had Eli first. Go ahead, Eli. Don't do it to me, man. Don't be that guy.
Your eyeball isn't the same as any other kind of lens, though.
Yeah, it is.
Your eyeball is your eyeball, and other stuff is other stuff.
Profound. Really? Who else wanted to get in on this? No offense, Eli.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if I could establish a level at any altitude, who's to say that when I look straight out, I don't have the same exact experience of the horizon as I do if I was at sea level? Like, then my experience with my eyes would be exactly the same.
It might be. You might rise up and have certain conditions in the air that change it and make it rise a little bit more than it would, and it ends up looking exactly the same. And yeah, so what? What's your point?
Well, I mean, the description of rises to eye level would come from that experience.
Yes, and in general terms, it generally appears to do so. But we're not talking in general terms when we're talking about measuring it and claiming it as Earth curve on the globe side, or debunking it as being beyond the physical measurable limits. And they, in terms of physical and measurable and arguable about, and what we actually debate, doesn't comport with the statement of it rising to eye level in literal terms.
That's also true.
That's the point we're trying to make here. That's what me, John, and Adam are trying to get to.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, yeah, they're two separate things. So Brian, what they're saying is correct. It doesn't mean that what you're saying is wrong.
This isn't against Brian. Everything Brian said is correct. Also, nothing Brian has said has been wrong so far. He's got. No. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I understand. See, mathematically, it's not at your eye level.
Right, there we go. Okay,
to be.
Perfect. So that's what. But when we debate.
It's like,
when we debate, Brian, please, Brian, when we debate, we get into getting out the tools, doing it accurately, how well have you done your maths, how much do they overlap? This is what we get down to. It's not, well, it kind of appears to, though, in general terms, when I look out the window, that ain't how we debate it. I don't mean to shut you down in this way, but I've got to.
Yeah, but no, you're completely, I actually cannot believe this. You're completely missing the point.
Here we
The
go.
point is, when you're not there with a theodolite or with a sextant or whatever, and you're looking out, right, from a cliff or from an airplane, the horizon will appear, depending on, like, unless there's bad weather, a lot of fog or something, the horizon will appear to be at eye level. But if you measured it with a sextant or maybe even a theodolite, then you're going to measure a dip to that horizon because your eye line is above the sea level, which I was barking on about since I think it was I'm saying this since 2015. I made a video in 2017. I know that. My God.
Okay, chill.
Brian,
We're friends here. Easy now.
The sextant is an optical measure.
Okay, come on, Brian. Go ahead, John.
The sextant is a tool that uses your eye. Your eye is how you take that measurement.
Absolutely.
Well, Nathan, what happened to the whole profound sound effect?
Yeah, well, you got to think of it in context of everything else that was just said.
Sometimes the obvious might need a profound sound effect because the penny drops at that moment. It just, sometimes you miss the wood for the trees.
Well, I mean, obviously, anybody who wears a pair of glasses, like, you're gonna see the difference in the angle of what you're looking at. You're looking at something and it appears in one place, and as you descend the glasses onto your eyes, it's gonna appear like it's higher or something like that. It's like, okay, so what?
Did you miss all the stuff leading up to this?
Yeah, it sounds like it. I don't know how to respond to that. What do you want me to say?
Well, how? It's not like I missed it. All you did was come roundabout to say, well, we use our eyes and we use our eyes to look
It's
through.
not a simplistic point that he's making in that comment. Right, John and Adam, for that matter, and Brian. We'll come back to this. This is something we're going to discuss in more detail because it starts with that differential between two flat planes, it being graphed out into something that looks damn near close 8 inches per mile squared when you put it on that graph. And it's the expanse of the rendering of the horizon to you as you rise, as opposed to the physical limitation to your view based on an Earth curve assumption that's come from that graph. Now, from there, you can talk all about dip angle corrections and measuring this and how much will it move towards the horizon, etc., etc. But ultimately, we are qualifying how we've gone from having a flat plane to being able to describe with a squaring function the ground versus the rendering of your view. And that's what this differential between two flat planes is, and that's the main focus of the point. But in so doing, it exposes a certain statement that both flat earthers and globe earthers hold up as a straw man in terms of what we would say about the horizon when you can, and therefore it's got behind by flat earthers, and I'm not saying you're that flat earther, you just happen to be in this instance, Brian, say, well, in a general terms, it does rise to eye level. Now, if you want to sit through probably about 8 hours or 6 hours of myself and Ranty going through this on his show with one of my, who was it that we did it with? God, my brain's gone blank thinking of loads of other things. Who was that show with when we covered the horizon rising to eye level?
Good times for all.
Not good times for all.
Life is short.
Life is short. It's one of my bloody Patreons. I'm really sorry. So, Life is Short went over this in such exquisite detail. But there was a point in the show, maybe 5 hours in, where he's like, he's summarized this. He's like, look, in general terms, the horizon does rise with you as you rise in elevation. So it kind of is a correct statement to say it rises to eye level. But by the same token, it doesn't, because of how it's being rendered to you in terms of your vision, its expanse as it increases as you raise. But he's gone through 3 hours of describing perspective effects as he gets to that stage. And it's that end of the scale that's focused on when you're in debate, as opposed to what you can easily get behind when Brian is correct in saying, as a general statement, the horizon rises to eye level. I don't need to say appears, because that's in the definition of the horizon itself. but it's what the horizon is and how it's skewed in the debate by each side when it's a vague statement that's promoted by flat earthers in that regard, and then the minutiae of the measurements. Yeah? The quantitative values that are going to be ascribed to these things when reified, in this case, the horizon. Well, how have we got there? The differential between two planes. Your 90-degree at eye line, whatever altitude you may be, excluding all corrections if you're establishing that with a tool like a bubble, versus the flat plane we dwell atop. So you can see the importance by where I've stressed or put the right intonation in this final summary, hopefully for this show. We'll see. Where are we at? We're at 51 minutes. My God, this time's flied today. What a great show. I say it myself. It's my show. I shouldn't do that. That's very big-headed. But we've got 10 minutes left, so great.
There's just one, all of that debate, though, and I think this is where I like my little ditty. It's conflating that horizon and what it's for, what it is. Yeah. But I'll read the ditty because to me this is why we compose this, just to differentiate what these things are for and what they're to. Because all the use of the sextant is to get that angle, elevation angle, that is relevant to the flat surface that we dwell atop. So to dip or not to dip, that is the correction. Whether it is nobler for the sextant to suffer the limitations of artificial horizons or to take the eye against the sea of troubles and by opposing end them, to define a level.
I'm tearing up a little bit, emissary. Tearing up.
Indeed. So as this shows,
I have a little video.
Oh, go on, Brian.
Yeah, I just share this little video. I won't play it, right? You can just hopefully see it. I may have to play a second of it, just so people get it, the gist of it.
Oh, this makes me feel sick going up this way. I like this one.
Hey, no colour commentary. Let Brian make his point, please. Go ahead, Brian.
How much of it can I play, Nathan?
Well, just don't play it at all. Just use your mouse and put it on the bar and click along to the various bits that you want. There you go.
Yeah, but this is what you won't see it. I just play it in 10-second increments. So I'll play it till 0017. It's at 007, okay?
Stop. Okay, you can probably make your point with that much footage. What's your point?
The point is that the horizon appears to be at eye level, but it's not.
Yeah. Okay. That's
no, because this is where the switch and bait is in the word appears. One group's interpreting it appears to be roughly at eye level, or the horizon appears because it's apparent. And now I can agree with it if it's apparent, but it doesn't. To me, I might be being pedantic, but it's not appearing at eye level. That is a statement I would disagree with. Yeah, it is apparent at eye level-ish. Yeah, but it's not. It's not a geometric thing. It's not doing that. And if you watch that little bit of tower, that horizon is forming and reforming as it goes up. So I would still have to disagree because it's about being not supporting whether or not Eric Dubay was right back then with his nuance. Can you make it correct? It's about what is correct now. And neither straw man that the flat Earth or the ball Earth are presenting is correct. We've discovered that, and we know why. And in doing so, we discover the switcheroo and the shenanigans as they try to make this apparent position of the horizon into the surface. So I have to disagree to be correct to get to the point of understanding today.
Well, I don't know how else to say it from a. Someone else wants to say something there.
Well, let me say something quick. If it's the horizon by definition is apparent, Isn't apparent the same as appear? And if it's appear, it always appears at eye level, except if it's like vision is obscured, like there's a fog, or it's too far to see, then it will appear to dip as a result of not being able to see far enough.
No, that's not what appear means. Apparent means not actual in this context.
Okay, so how would we word it better?
Yeah, you'll get into big trouble with this.
The way to word it better is the horizon does not rise to eye level. It adjusts on a ratio based on the observer's height above the flat plane which he's viewing.
What's the horizon?
Exactly. It's a point of optical
It's got a
resolution,
definition. It's on screen. It's the point where the sky appears to meet the ground in this image.
So the word appear.
Yeah.
Appears
Not
to meet.
actually.
No. I was very specific. The point where the sky appears to meet the ground. That's what a horizon is. So by definition, inside the definition, I've got the point where the sky appears. Let's put my mouse on it. That's where it appears to meet the ground. Simple.
Yeah, but does the sky ever meet the ground?
No.
It's not accurate.
No.
Yeah, but the horizon appears to be at eye level. But is it at your eye level? No.
No.
Unless you're in the water and your eye line is at the water. And I mean with your nose below the water.
So then the horizon does not rise to eye level unless you put your eye in the water?
No, it appears to rise to eye level.
Wait, remember Adam said we don't have to say appear, because by definition the horizon is what is it? Appear, apparent? Like, what am I supposed to say?
The horizon by
So we can just
definition
say the
is
horizon.
apparent. So because the horizon by definition is apparent, you don't have to say the horizon. You could say the point at which the sky appears to meet the ground rises with you.
The horizon.
All right, but that's
is
also using the
apparently at eye
definition.
level.
Can't we just use it without the definition? The horizon is at eye level, and then you look at the definition and you get further understanding what that means.
But it isn't, because when you come down to the nitty-gritty of arguing about, you're measuring the differential between it, and they're claiming a dip to it, and they're even deriving an R from the dip to it. So no, it isn't. That's what we're trying to labour. We've got a few more minutes.
Yeah, but they're adding that stuff in there. Not in the definition. Any of that stuff they're saying is not there. They're conjuring up.
That was the initial feast of nonsense point of all of this, is that we first started off opposing their statement, but we should really just as happily oppose ours now. Not worrying about it, not ashamed of it. We figured it out to make the actual truth known. There is no more confusion. There's no more ambiguity about whether or not what the horizon's doing. Is it exact? Is it not? We understand what forms the horizon, how it appears, why it appears, and that relationship between height and a flat deck. We understand that now. So I'm happy to say both viewpoints are incorrect, because we now hold the correct understanding of it.
Goodness.
Well, all this
No,
brought
that was the
clarity
whole
to
point
the
of it.
Globers too, as well, didn't
Hold
they?
on, guys.
Because then
I want to
after
end on
the
a
Black
quantum
Swan,
eraser.
they-
Hold on, guys. I want to end on a quantum eraser moan. Go ahead, QE.
Goodness, this is painful, guys. You need to find yourselves a girl. And speaking to that guy climbing up that pole, he needs his head examined.
What this is what this is
I say I want to end on a
the whole
QE note.
thing because he wants to talk about something else. That's what's going on.
Thanks for that brilliant end to my show, Brian. Really appreciate it. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. Another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels, and all of you smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Like, Horizon has apparent in it already. Saying the apparent position, it's just nonsense.
Okay,
But
guys.
then that gives rise to the non-apparent apparent.
That's why it broke me. Like, words had meaning. I couldn't do it no more. I was just like, no.
That's the meaning that Brian's using it in, though, you see. It's not apparent as in apparent relating to the horizon. It's apparent as in it apparently, as in it roughly rises to eye level. That's if I view the sentence like that, I cannot disagree with it. But that's part of the feast of nonsense, because it doesn't really mean anything then, does it? It just means it's apparently there, but not me. But there isn't this relationship to height. There wasn't that. But there is. And that was the point. In our first flat Earth side, it was just rising to eye level, in denial of celestial navigation and corrections that we've learned and understood what they're for and where they derive from.
It's intentionally oversimplified to be undone when it gets down to the detail and minutiae of what's actually going on with the horizon in terms of how it's measured. So therefore, you can overcome the flat Earth assertion. That is oversimplified and easy to defend at surface level by the flat earther. And by demonstration, you can just whip out a video of something raising in elevation like Brian did. But that's not the level that we debate at. And when you're overcome in terms of them saying, no, in fact, we derive our R value from it because it doesn't rise to eye level, suddenly you're finding yourself saying, well, no, we appreciate it doesn't rise to eye level. And, where'd you go with that? Unless you're starting on the steadiest of footing by saying the differential between your eye line and the flat plane, immediately implying that the horizon doesn't rise to eye level, is what gives you your Earth curve. So I don't expect this to be something that's not, immediately got behind and everyone goes, oh wow, that's so strong as a starting point to move forward from. Because there's certain assertions in terms of the horizon rising to eye level that seem defensible, and a reasonable man would say they are. And I, in some ways, couldn't disagree with them until Adam has done as he's done and stepped in and gone, but no, because it doesn't. But yeah, I just want to tell the guys in Discord, given that little so you can just round it out, so enough to say I'm moving to the after show, guys, in the not Discord, in Gilded. So just so you know.
But you're missing. One second. The last thing I want to say about it. You're missing the overriding point. All us wanted to argue about whether the horizon rise to high level or not, instead of accepting the fact that as you rise, the horizon rises with you, not goes down as you go up like it has to on a ball. It has to be going down as you go up. That
right, if it was geometric.
The point at sea level didn't change. So all it changed was your angle to that sea level as you rose up. The sea level part wasn't going down at the same time.
Right, so there's a different... Exactly.
That.
That's the point. There's a differential between the sea level, that's surface level, and the eye line that you form at 90 degrees to your elevation. The differential between the two is what we're describing.
Yeah. But that's not for that doesn't fit their ball. So they wanted to hammer us about
where their ball came from.
Rises.
So you say it doesn't fit it. It's where it was derived from. That's the point.
Well, no, it wasn't. It wasn't derived from that. It was derived from flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris and back engineering. And then they took that thing and trying to say that was the geometric horizon, when it was never the geometric horizon. It was always a refracted horizon in their model.
Okay, the oversimplification on their side of 8 inches per mile squared sits nicely against this.
I'd just like to point out that Brian said that was the last thing he was going to say, and he said 2 more things after that. And another thing, Brian's Mystic Meg prediction that I was trying to change the topic. I wasn't trying to change the topic. I just wanted to, get that out, right? So no topic.
Right, no topic on this today. I don't know. I hope you can get my point right. I'm happy to concede this initial point that appears to be a point of strength from a flat earther's point of view. I'm happy to concede that early on. Admittedly, it's going to require explanation, but in the end, my argument becomes infinitely stronger because of it.
Don't do it, Brian.
Goes in feedback, QE.
Okay. Do it, Brian.
Not saying any more about it.
Do it, Brian. Do it.
You got feedback
from you, yeah.
That's 3-2 to Nathan now.
The piece of nonsense on the globe side, I think, is just as bad, if not worse, than on the flat Earth side. Well, maybe it's not as bad. The flat Earth side has got a fucking wave of shit to climb through. Now that I go back and look at it, I don't know if I would have found my way to this platform had I just went the way you guys did.
Well, look, right now, Flat Earth is not that super revolutionary anymore because it's already been revealed. Back then, there was just this massive energy. Things were different then.
The thing...
Very pulling.
The thing that was probably different between us and you back then is, back then, you see, we knew we could see too far. And we had to investigate that.
What?
Yeah. Yes. Intentionally, Nathan. Think about it. I knew back then I could see too far. Yeah. It's not until now that you've worked through it all to realize, A, what a feast of nonsense that statement was, but you agreed with it back then. I can see too far. Yeah. And I didn't think back then, no, that's nonsense, Ad. You can only see how far you can see. It's only not seeing too far because I think I'm on a ball still, even though I knew it was flat.
I was just going to... Sorry.
Go.
I was just going to say, it just sounds like an incomplete statement, right? If you just say, well, we see too far. No, you see too far based on mathematics and geometry of a ball with a radius of the size of 3959 miles.
All right,
but we didn't say that every time, right? We just said we see too far for what your globe maps tell us that we should be able to see. So
Adam didn't add that
swan.
qualifier. So what Adam did was just say, I knew I could see too far. He was intentionally trying to trigger me to go, what the hell are you doing? So we could explain what he meant. Because when Adam says, I can see too far, he's not adding on the disclaimer, I can see further than a geometric assumption of a sphere Earth with a horizon that blocks my view would say I can see. And based on an assumption of a geometric horizon that would limit my view, I can see further than that limit dictated by a model. That's not what's being added. Just I can see too far, implying that there should be a limit. And there should be a limit is... who's off mute in Gilded? Driving me bonkers. Go on mute if you can in Gilded, please. Stagoli. There's a geometric limitation to your view that's going to be assumed when you say too far. Too far meaning there should be a limit. That's Adam's point.
Well, I'm highlighting my own naivety and ignorance back then. I would not have been able, I didn't understand the debate well enough back then to have verbalized it like that, like we can now. But deep inside, I knew I could see too far and I knew that was wrong. And it's took, 5, 6, 7 years now? You know what I mean? Of refining these arguments, understanding the arguments on both sides, to be able to realize how silly a statement I would have made back then. I can see too far. But that's just growth.
I'm racking my brains.
The further you get into this, you realize the words that you use matter, right?
Yes, the part of magic, spells, spelling, magic. Yeah, Stagoli, did you actually want to add something? Sorry to bite your head off.
No, my bad. I was just forgot to hit mute when I switched rooms.
No, that's
Usually
fair.
this automatically.
It does. It automatically takes you off mute when you change it. We've had it set so you can do that. Go on, Ten.
Yeah, throw a wrench. Yeah, I like to throw a wrench in this. The Black Swan is using their claims of what Earth is and saying the horizon and the limitation doesn't match your 3959. So therefore, we don't live on a ball. Now, back in the day, when someone says, hey, we see too far, one way is they're saying in their own mind, I don't live on a ball. because if I was on the ball, Earth curve would get in the way, and the Earth curve's not getting in the way. The black swan is showing Earth curve, the horizon is not getting in the way. There are similarities when you go. So when you criticize people who say we see too far, you're doing it from a different position, whereas they're very similar if you say it the right way to the black swan.
I hate that
let me take this. Hold on, Neil.
I've been
Hold on.
working listening to this
Guys, hold on one
nonsense.
second. Let me take this back.
Wow, Neil.
This is a pre-Black Swan affirmation in our regards for Adam and myself and others on the panel. And I want to take it back a step. So I'm going to be a bit rusty in this, but I'll try and give my example. Okay. So back in the day, we had an example of a clock tower that was taken from Blackpool to Barrow-in-Furness. And what you can see is bits of the town hall, a clock. You can pretty much tell a time on it. It's a quite clear picture that was taken by a guy who changed side, ranty flat earth. In any event, this picture is of a clock. So if you're a globe believer, you look at this clock, you go to your maths, and you say, you're not actually seeing the clock. So there's two dudes, one's explaining what you're looking at to the other. The dude that's explaining is a globe believer. And he says, you're not really seeing the clock. You're actually seeing a slightly looming non-standard refraction projection of the clock from behind the limitation of a geometric sphere edge horizon, projected up into your line of sight. In essence, it's a mirage. And the guy who's on the other side is a flat earther. His reply is, I just see a clock.
Hold on. No, you're missing a step, because initially, the way it went was, if I live on a ball, why can I see this clock? And you're inviting explanation.
Right. So I tried to include that by saying the glober goes to the maths. So the guy who's on a ball is asked, why? Well, if you're on a ball, how can we can see this clock? Response, well, because it's a slightly looming non-standard refraction projection from behind the physical geometric limitation of a sphere edge horizon of 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet projected up into your eye line, aka a mirage. And the flat earther's response is, I just see a clock. I just say clock.
Okay.
What about the distance to the clock? That's important. No, it isn't. I can say clock at 20 miles, but so what? It's just a clock at 20 miles. But for the glober, it's not. He sees too far and needs to explain why he sees too far, because he's got a limitation that's not getting in the way when it should on his model for his belief of a limitation that's not there for him, not me. I just see a clock. Why would I take it upon myself to say, I see that clock, but I shouldn't really see it? Well, what's the only reason that I shouldn't see it, ergo it be too far to see? Well, because there's a sphere edge getting in the way. So you're automatically on there begging the question of there should be a limitation when you say, I see too far. You don't see too far. You just see. And there's no need to apologise for seeing a clock. Unless you're a baller. Then you need to apologise for why you see a clock, because it's too far to see on a ball model that says it shouldn't be there. Therefore, it's a slightly looming non-standard refraction projection from behind the physical limitation of your view called Earth curve that's been projected up as a mirage to meet your eye. Therefore, it's not really there. Just looks like it's there because it's a projection. Because Earth curve would be getting in the way if it was in its real position. It's not in its real position. It's refraction. The light's bending around a presupposed sphere Earth at a rate derivable from R, and the light that's reaching our eye has been bent up from behind that limitation that I assume is there. That's why I, the globe-believing Muppet, see too far. Clear?
Perfect. Perfect. And with that,
What? 4 more hours, man.
Don't trigger him, John.
Been a while. That could have been a lot more concise.
But Nathan, you said that flat earther answered that way, but other flat earthers wouldn't have answered that way.
You telling me that when you're looking at a clock, you would start apologising for why you see it as a flat earther?
No. That's this. I know when the flat earther says what they say. That's why I tried to draw a similarity to the black swan. In a way, it's the same thing, but said in a different way. Like you said, if I forget what you said, but the flat earther, I'd have to rewind the show together, but I disagreed the minute you said the flat earther says this. No, not all flat earthers say that. If it was me, I'd say, hey, your globe geometry fails you here. I see a clock. Your globe geometry says what?
That
Okay.
it's refracted with respect to the horizon.
Correct. It's refracted with respect to a physical horizon. Let me try and rephrase this. This is as concise as I can make this. So instead of "we see too far," which is the incorrect assertion we're trying to correct in this instance, I'm going to rephrase that as a flat earther to "you see too far."
No. I would do what the black swan does.
Why am I being disagreed with in this regard today? Everyone's very
What?
antagonistic. Is there something in
What's
the
the
air?
black swan?
But in
What's
the
the
live
crux
show,
of
it is
the black
Brian, and
swan
now
argument?
it's when I say you, not you, 10th man. You pointing at the glober in the example. You, glober, you see too far because you believe you're on a globe. Therefore, you shouldn't see it and need to explain why it's a slightly looming non-standard refraction, i.e. a holographic projection of a clock from behind the physical limitation called Earth curve that's not blocking it. Therefore, a mirage. You see too far. I just see what I see.
That's perfect. That's
Did
perfect.
I see a double image of the clock? Was it a mirage?
If you see an inverted image of this, wasn't that. This is pre-Black Swan. That's what I was trying to say. I don't know if you were around when we were doing this with Barrow and Finesse.
What I'm trying to draw is there are similarities with what the black swan is, like the death kill of all death kills for them. There are similarities. That was the beginning of how to do it, but it wasn't as strong as the black swan, is what I'm trying to say. But it was almost the same thing.
No, but it didn't lead to the same debunking of the globe. It just led to a realization that we begged the question when we said we see too far, when in reality the globers who have a need to defend just seeing a clock see too far.
Right. And I'm saying flat earthers had that context of the second version, but you always put it that it's only the first version.
Perfect. And with that,
Shut up, Kiwi.
You're trying to end
Shut up.
Nathan's show.
Well, hold on, because
He's
this
waiting
is
for
this
the
is an
breakfast or
important
something.
distinction to make. Prior to the Black Swan, whenever this was debated, it was always in objects in relation to Earth curve. That's the only way I ever heard it argued. Now, maybe people were arguing it differently about the geometry of the sphere, but everyone was talking about objects in relation to a sphere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, remember
That's the
when the Chicago skyline was supposedly a mirage? Because remember, before the Black Swan, like I remember first getting into this, that it was the Chicago skyline that was the big to do, right?
Yeah, the
that
news
was the
guy.
one. Well, even
The guy on the
even
news said
besides
it
the
had
news guy, yeah, and that's the reason why he said it, right? Because so
What
many
you're
people
seeing
were talking
here
about it.
is a toupee.
That's true. But that was the big example, right? And that's when a lot of flat earthers were saying, well, yeah, I mean, how do we see Chicago, right? It's too far.
Well, see, that's the thing, though. If we take away the Black Swan and we take away the elevation angles and the things that you know now, I can talk about Chicago in relation to Earth curve and use refraction as an explanation. That doesn't make it true, but I can do that.
yeah, you
Because I
can't.
have-
Then you have to define refraction first.
Let me do it for you. So Chicago is actually a slightly looming non-standard refraction high in a holographic projection of Chicago from behind the physical geometric sphere edge horizon formerly known as Earth curve, refracted up to meet your eye line, therefore actually a mirage and not physically there where you think it would be. It's just a representation of Chicago from behind Earth curve, refracted up at 7/6 or whatever rate of hour I want to apply to it. Sound about right?
Right, because you've not addressed the radius.
So as a flat earther, though, I just say, I see Chicago. Full stop.
No, it wouldn't be a mirage.
Even
Blooming.
better. Even better.
I just
when,
try and include as many of their bullshit replies as they throw at you.
Right.
Slightly looming, non-standard refraction. Drop in hyena because Tim Osman had slightly looming hyenas. I can't believe I'm saying some of this stuff. It was just comical now I look back on it. But they had every description, like they don't want to say 90. They didn't just want to say, oh, yeah, 7/6R, because they're hiding it in a beta switch and calling it refraction, and then giving that a different name because we call them out and say, well, what's refraction? So, well, no, it's not. It's slightly looming. And so it goes on. So I just bundle them all in one, slightly looming, non-standard refraction, high, and holographic projection from behind the physical sphere edge horizon. I'm getting more and more polished because of the amount of times I said it back in the Barrow and Finesse days.
The best part about that Chicago skyline nonsense when we're being told it's all refracted and it's completely behind the curvature. We just see it miraged up. When Rob Skiba, rest in peace, brother, got in a boat and put a camera on it and headed towards it, and then actually proved that, it's not the city being refracted behind Earth curve. It's just the city right there. Look, there it is.
Hold on. This may not seem super important, but in the mind of some of the people that were on the other side, right? The rate at which it's refracted would change as you get closer.
I'll tell you what, you Mr. John, you better define refraction right now.
Right.
Light changing angle.
That's not what would happen for the ballers. No. No, they don't have that for their refraction, though, do they?
And the rate wouldn't change. The rate's defined. It's set. It's in stone. It's defined by R. 7/6R is the rate of change.
But perhaps, perhaps at the Feast of Nonsense for the Globers, you were led to believe that what you were talking about was refraction. Pray tell.
Right, but the distance from that 7 over. God, it's so stupid even trying to argue it now. But as you get closer, the angle would change.
Angle, you say?
What angle?
7/6R is not an angle.
That's why I slipped it on a flat plane. But, they don't think about it that way. It's kind of disconnected in your head. You think because you can look through a glass of water and something seems to be disjointed, then somehow that fixes all your problems.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. On the Feast of Nonsense on the Globe side, you're also subject to the same bait and switch that we are. You're led to believe that your argument is something to do with refraction. End statement. It isn't, though, is it? Because terrestrial refraction isn't refraction.
Well, the statement that was real big right before the Black Swan is you can tell it's refracted because of its position with respect to the horizon.
That was an actual direct quote of Rumpus's as well. End quote, the Rumpus. He said those words. I've got them recorded. That's why he doesn't come back here. Because of that statement that was prevalent just before the Black Swan. You know it's refracted because of its position with respect to the horizon. Because they're trying to prove the horizon's a physical sphere edge called Earth curve. The moment you move it with refraction, it's no longer what they're trying to prove as being physically Earth curve anymore. Now, they didn't understand that in 2020, and they're not going to understand it today, unless they move over to the flat Earth side. But what are they really doing? They're in the same bloody pond as us. We're now discussing how the ponds are very similar. Well, they're not similar. They're the same pond. It's just you've got a very subtly different type of food fed to you. Or maybe a different knife and fork to cut it up with. Because it sounds like the same thing. We're both being fed the same nonsense. When you get here, what you get labelled, it's like when you get into Discord or the new one. What's it called now? Gilded. You just get you get into the pond and you just get assigned a label. Well, you're going to be labelled Flat Earther. You're going to be labelled Globe Believer. Does it really mean anything? You're in the same pond. Now, you're gobbling down nonsense from your Google Wiki searches that say X for the globe when you're parroting off that refraction is really the light bending. No, it isn't. You've got 7/6 of a radius value in standard form, and you just derive a different value mathematically from R in all instances. So sod all to do with light at all. But that's what you've been told on the globe side in this pond with us at the other end of the table, gobbling down a different suitcase of refraction is what's bending light, when we're being told what you have as an explanation for your globe when we see Chicago. We just see it. But we're suddenly having to justify why we see too far. We don't. But we're gobbling down from the same table, aren't we?
Profound.
I'd like to ask a question of the panel. When Rumpus said all that, where was his main source of information coming from? A certain person with some initials? Oh, you get the prize. Now, Andrew Thomas Young has stated clearly, and we've shown it, that all of his refraction calculations came from a plane. But then later, as Chocolate says it nicely, they had to take geometric considerations.
With no geometry. Well, after Rumpus said that, it didn't take too long for him to change his little tune from with respect to the horizon to actually refracting the horizon. That was the problem.
Right. And I pinned him on it, gave him 3 opportunities to take back his lie, and he doubled down on it. And I said, right, that's it, you're a liar. I can play it for you. I played it for him, and he continued to double down. I'm like, my God, there's just no communicating with this person anymore. Because even if you show them where they're lying, play it to them, they'll continue to lie.
Yeah, no, I didn't say that. No, I just played it. No. La 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 la.
Hey, did you get a chance? So
Should we play that clip? It's been a while.
Kiwi, let me finish that one part of what Andrew Thomas Young said. After he said that, he says this with exclamation point. But we know the Earth isn't flat. Now let me summarize.
Yeah.
Excuse me. The way I see that is I got all my calculations of refraction from a plane, but dang it, that would prove the Earth is flat. So I have to write this. But we know the Earth isn't flat.
Yes, sir.
I got all my measurements from a plane. Next sentence. The plane I got my measurements from don't exist. Doesn't exist.
I came in a little late. Did you get a chance to play the 3 Blind Mice?
No.
Why the hell not?
Because I haven't actually listened to it myself because it won't play on an iPad. So, given it's now, I'm now up to about an hour and 20 minute setup time. Tell me what it is, and if it sounds clean, I'll play it.
It's clean.
Okay, if it's clean, I'll play it.
It's a numpty clip.
Where is it? Well, that's John
In
D.
your
Sorry.
inbox, Skype.
Inbox in Skype. Yeah, I thought I was going to you, and it's actually John D. I clicked on by mistake. So yeah, I've got it.
There's a few swear words, but I think they're...
Prepare yourself. Experiments prove that the ether is actually there.
Right? That's how you know you're being scammed. So back when Nathan Oakley kept saying things like science proves this, science proves, I took him and said, Nathan, you know science doesn't prove anything, right?
Is that it also confirms the existence of what science has known for hundreds of years, and that is the existence of the ether.
You unlock this door with the key of
retardation.
Beyond it is another dimension. You're moving into a land of
bullshittery.
You've just crossed over into
the numpty zone.
I took him and said, Nathan, you know science doesn't prove anything, right?
What science has known.
You know science doesn't prove anything, right? Right? That's how you know you're being scammed.
Experiments prove that the ether.
You know science doesn't prove anything, right?
You are so dumb. Damn.
I'm asking you why you're peddling this stupid shit.
My point is pretty simple. Right. So it's simple, right? So Michelson Morley, for example, we had lights go different directions, and one of the
Couldn't care less. This is a parlor trick. Stop. Stop. You don't give a crap about this parlor trick.
Okay, well, that's why relativity was created.
Sorry, are you telling me you're going around peddling this crap to this community based on a fucking parlor trick?
No, it's based on antecedent relationship. Like,
Sorry,
it's just
what was the
logical
phenomena
framework.
studied in this highly scientific parlor trick? What was the phenomena studied?
The difference in travel of light. The difference in travel of light. The difference in travel of light.
10 days later.
No, you're presupposing that light's traveling from point A to point B.
I'm not.
The difference in travel of light.
No, you're presupposing that light's traveling from point A to point B.
I'm not.
What the hell did you just say?
The difference in travel of light.
No, you're presupposing that light's traveling from point A to point B.
I'm not.
Oh, son of a... That's gonna leave a mark.
Michelson Morley, for example. The difference in travel of light.
No, you're presupposing that light's traveling from point A to point B.
I'm not.
Are you high right now?
Michelson Morley, for example. The difference in travel of light.
Now, in the atomistic interpretation, it's physically traveling from point A to point B.
Calling all cars. We have
double speaking numpty dipshit.
all cars. Please assist. All cars. Please assist.
What does the electromagnetic wave propagate within?
10 days later.
Okay, well, light is neither a particle nor a wave according to ether.
What does the electromagnetic wave propagate within?
Okay, well, light is neither a particle nor a wave according to ether. We have things go 3 times the speed of light. The speed of light is
so it's got a
bullshit. There
journey?
is no...
Sorry, you think it's got a journey and a speed?
I'm saying it doesn't, Oakley. You seem to not be keeping up. We have things go 3 times the speed of light.
It doesn't have a speed.
That's right. We have things go 3 times the speed of light.
Fucking idiot.
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this. And totally redeem yourself!
Is that it also confirms the existence of what science has known for, hundreds of years, and that is the existence of the ether.
No one's claiming that ether is science.
What science has known for, hundreds of years, and that is the existence of the ether.
No one's claiming that ether is science. No one's claiming that ether is science.
What science has known for, hundreds of years, and that is the existence of the ether.
Oh,
Back when Nathan Oakley kept saying things like science proves this, science proves, I took him and said, Nathan, science doesn't prove anything, right?
Experiments prove that the ether is actually there.
Back when Nathan Oakley kept saying things like science proves this, science proves, I took him and said, Nathan, science doesn't prove anything, right?
Prove that the ether.
I took him and said, Nathan, science doesn't prove anything, right?
What science has known for, hundreds of years, and that is the existence of the ether.
No one's claiming that ether is science.
Three blind mice, see how they run, see how they run.
Very good. That took a fair bit of work. Although, then again, I did give you the base with 2 previous numpty clips, right?
Don't fucking with me. When you fucking with me, you fucking with the best.
I'm glad you've taken those 2. It was from those 2 clips plus 1 more. I don't know where the 3rd one was from, but brilliant.
Thank you. Of course, we couldn't hear the the music and stuff on this side. Hopefully they got it out in the show.
You couldn't hear the music. What do you mean?
It kept clipping at the
Yeah.
higher ends. You know, the giggles and that clipped out, so we lost a little bit.
Yeah, only John's voice came through very stable, and like the actual recordings.
Can I
all the
ask
sound
Adam a
effects cut out.
question? Adam.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for letting me know.
Hey, Adam, you there?
Yeah.
All right. If I cut myself real deep, how do I avoid stitches? Do I just stop the bleeding? Because I don't want to go to no freaking hospital.
Are you dying, Neil?
No,
Do you
It's
look
not
like
the
you're dying?
deepness.
Just
Not
let
the
Adam.
deepness.
No.
It's
Everyone shut
Brandon,
up. Just everyone
oh
shut
my
up.
God. It's not the
Butterfly.
deepness, it's the width.
It's about across my thumb. Like
you
the
put a
bottom part of my
butterfly?
thumb from left to right.
Neil, let me answer you. I live on a farm. Can you make a butterfly with some tape and just push it together?
I don't know. It just keeps opening up really wide.
Super glue.
Well,
Go to the hospital, Neil. Go to the
That
hospital.
can
Ah, they're
work,
gonna
yeah.
make.
Will Neil die? Will the show continue? Will my computer arrive tomorrow? These exciting questions can only be answered if you tune in tomorrow to Flat Earth Debate. But in all seriousness, with that, I am going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming streams. Hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.